Welcome to DevOps Info channel. Today we'll continue discussing on the data loss prevention topic, but we'll focus more on how to get started with the data loss on the endpoint data loss prevention. So the endpoint data loss prevention is part of the Microsoft Purview data loss prevention that features to protect your sensitive data across the Microsoft 365 services and also in your endpoint devices. So basically, the Microsoft Endpoint DLP allows you to monitor all the onboarded Windows as well as the Mac OS devices. In the previous video, we had a look at how to onboard your Windows device. If you did not have a look at it, I highly recommend to take a look at it. That would really help you to understand how to onboard your devices for the data loss prevention. And once the device is onboarded, this DLP would detect what are the sensitive items that are used and shared. So this gives you the visibility and control you need to make on your sensitive data. And obviously, this helps in preventing the risky behavior and the data leakage that might happen from the endpoint devices. So before we start, there are again some prerequisites. Like as I said, these are the licenses that you need to have. Microsoft 365 E5. If you have Microsoft 365 E5, it's well and good. You don't need to worry about anything, or any of the license that you have here is compatible of onboarding your devices and then utilizing the endpoint data loss prevention. Uh, or if you want to buy a specific one, then it's Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Plan 2. That is the one which is used to onboard the devices for the endpoint data loss prevention on your endpoint devices. And also if you have proxy, then you need to make sure all the required URLs are all the required URLs are whitelisted in your proxy. So these are the onboarding procedures. You can have a look at it. And at the moment, these are the endpoint DLP support for the virtualized environment. Like it's supported on the Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Citrix, Amazon Workspace, and Hyper-V. So there are also some known issues, which is already mentioned in the website. I highly recommend to take a look at it if you have a virtualized environment, and also if you are planning to install in your organization. So overall, the installation workflow is like you need to prepare your devices, and then you need to proceed further from that. And then yeah, so going further, we would see what are the options that is available and what are the things that you can, because the moment before you onboard getting started with the policies and other stuff, you need to have some aspects of the DLP behavior, and then you need to see how you need to get started, because in the previous video we also discussed about the data classification is more important part before implementing any DLP tooling. So you need to have that in place even for the endpoint DLP data loss prevention, because you need to understand what type of data that you need to protect. So in my example, to get started, I have two devices which we already saw in the previous video. So, for example, I'm just choosing one device, which is the one of my test device, which is joined to this tenant. So here, you see like the real-time protection is enabled, and the behavioral monitoring is also enabled, and the DLP policy sync is updated as well. So if I go into the DLP policy sync details, here, like for example, I would be able to see what are the policies that's been applied to this particular device. And the DLP policy sync, like for example, if you create any kind of DLP policy, then it takes usually 2 hours to update on your client device. So in our example, like for example, I'm just clicking on view all policies on this device. So here it shows us like the custom policy and the GDPR enhanced policy. These are the two policies which we created in our previous video. The same policy that has been applied here, so that's the reason it shows those policies here. So if you want to create a dedicated policy based for the endpoint error loss prevention, you can also do that, and that would be showing here. And you see the device details, last seen, the OS version, everything. And also you see the sensitive data activity. For example, if I click on the view all sensitive data activity, then it brings us to the activity explorer. In the Activity Explorer, when you scroll down, for example, I'm just going a little bit earlier, and then we are going to see if there is any sensitive activity detected. So here we see like there is some sensitive activity detected, which is like what is the activity. It says file created, and then it says dlp.pdf. Yeah, this is nothing but like how to onboard into DLP program. That was a fast track document from Microsoft, which I downloaded from the Microsoft website. But it is showing us one of the harmful file, sorry, one of the sensitive item detected, because there is a possible of all full names, medical terms and conditions, because there is a possibility that this document dlp.pdf has some kind of a data classification that's coming from the default data classification from the Microsoft ones. Like, so if you want to further fine tune it, you can always create your own sensitive info and then go with that. But these are like the default ones which is coming from the Microsoft. Like, for example, the document which that was downloaded dlp.pdf had some all medical terms and all full names. So these are the reason why it is showing as sensitive over here. And then if I go further, there are some file modified, which is showing as detected, because this is like visa.docs. Like, this is one of the example which I showed in the previous video to detect the credit card numbers. So that's the reason it is showing like this. Like, for example, when I open this, it says the sensitive info type credit card number, my personal number, because here uh, we tested on the previous video to detect the credit card information. So that's the reason I saved that particular file locally on my laptop in the folder uh, C drive, and then it's detecting that, and it shows the sensitive info type as credit card number, which is good, right? So in this example, like, if you define any kind of a sensitive info based on your organization requirement, and then if anyone is saving that particular information, then you would be able to detect it here. File modified, file created, renamed, all those information is showing here, which is really good here. And apart from that, like, there are a few other things which you can do, like this is also like optical character recognition. This would detect based on the images, if it has any sensitive information, then like on the bmp file, jpeg file, then it would be able to identify those informations here. So which is good. And then you also see something, I will show you a little bit more on the data loss prevention. So especially on the data loss prevention for the endpoint DLP settings, we have the advanced classification, scanning and protection. Like, when you turn on, it would allow the Microsoft 365 uh, to scan the items, classify, and return those results to the local device. So basically, you are taking advantage of the features, mm, like, which is a default that is coming from the Microsoft. And then this is something called, this is very important if your allocation bandwidth limits, because here you're sending content from your local device to the cloud services, because basically scanning all these items and then classification of these items, it takes a lot of bandwidth, and then it needs to be sent to the Microsoft the cloud. So if you have any limitation in the bandwidth, for example, in any one of your office locations, then it's very important that you need to limit the bandwidth usage. But just in case, if you don't, you're not worried about it, then like, you can just leave it as it is. But usually, when you're enabling this at the first time, then a lot of scanning and classification of data would happen. In that scenario, that it's very important, you need to limit the bandwidth to a certain extent, so that your bandwidth is not choked sending all this data to the cloud. And then you have something called file path exclusion for Windows. If you would like to add any file path exclusion, then you would be able to do that. You have it for Mac as well. And then this is evidence collection for file activities. Then it would let you to collect the evidence file, which would be helpful for troubleshooting. And then you have the network share. This is very interesting. You can extend this DLP coverage to the network shares and the map network drives. The next video, I'm planning to map my local network drive, and then we would be able to see. I'll put some files, sensitive info files, and then we'll see how the reduction mechanism and the effectiveness of the reduction is. And when we talk about the restricted apps and groups, you could also do that. Like for example, if you want to block uh, Zoom or TeamViewer, then you can do that. I also did not download it, but in the next video we will see the shared for a shared drive, and also these restricted apps, and see like how the reduction mechanisms. And you also have some browser and domain restrictions to sensitive data. Like for example, if you don't want to um, uh, access any browsers, then you can select unallowed browsers. They will be blocked accessing the files for specific files protected by your policies. So for this example, I've added Firefox. I've also not tested this. And yeah, so these are the very important parts that you can consider when protecting your DLP from the endpoint perspective. And there is also some additional settings for the endpoint DLP, where you can give the business justification for any policy tips, and then that could appear on the devices. And then yeah, these are and also you have some removable USB device groups, network share groups, and VPN settings. So these are things that you have in the endpoint DLP settings. And there is also something called email templates. You can use these templates to sending the email notifications about an alert, which can help to make sure that your communications are efficient. So you can create a template, and then you can send it. And this is also very interesting one, the analytics, which is in the preview mode. So this is like the moment when you enable, um, this will give more data insights, and then you'll be able to see more recommended action settings from the Microsoft. And you have this just-in-time protection. This is also very interesting. This will evaluate the content shared from the devices, and then it would prevent sensitive data from leaving your leaving from your devices. So you can select the location and also devices. If you want, you can make some exclusions, and then only specific account. You can do that as well. And Yeah, the interesting part is control copying to clipboard. The moment when you select this, yeah, it says turn this on if you want to prevent users from copying content to the clipboard, while just-in-time protects is evaluating their file. So yeah, this one I just enabled a few minutes back. I'm not sure it would work, but yeah, we can also test this. But if it doesn't work, then yeah, probably we can do this on our next video. Yeah, but at this moment it's working. But anyways, we will see all together in the next video how to control this. Yeah, you have app exclusions. If you want to exclude some app on the Windows, you'd be able to do that. And also there is a file path exclusion for Windows, you'd be able to. And also there's a file extensions. So these scenarios can come like when there is some files which is being blocked, and those files are genuinely used by your developers. In that case, like, you can do the file extensions to exclude. That can also fall for the file path as well. So these are the things that you would be able to control, especially on the endpoint data loss prevention. The setting that you'll be able to configure, and with that, definitely you will get more visibility. Okay, and also the other example is, like, for example, one of your user is uploading some of the sensitive data to any of the third party portal, or any of the third party cloud, then those information can be detected on this endpoint DLP settings, and an alert can be triggered, and that particular device would be marked as a high red alert. So the moment when the particular device is marked as red alert, this device, this alert would go to your SOC team, and they would be able to identify what kind of sensitive information that's been shared outside of your device. And from there you would be able to control these kind of data leakage that's happening from your organization. So this is very important, because at this moment everyone is using SaaS applications, and also cloud providers. So most of the cases, the devices are left only managed. They are left with modern authentication enabled, but at the end, um, the DLP, if it is not enforced and if the data is not classified, then you hit into a scenario like the data has been shared through data exfiltration can happen through these channels, because it's a SaaS provider. We have a common URL, common endpoint, with users will be able to access different tenants, and then they will be able to exfiltrate the data in that way. So these kind of activities would be able to monitor on the endpoint data loss prevention. And also there is something called insider risk management, that would also help. So this all these series you will be seeing in the upcoming videos, because this is definitely robust. The endpoint DLP from the Microsoft is a robust feature. And then it is definitely designed to safeguard all the sensitive data from the endpoint devices like Windows and Mac OS. Um, it monitors and controls data activities, such as copying the data from your local devices, and also to uploading them, copying to USB drives, uploading to cloud services. So we need to always ensure that this kind of sensitive data which is present on the end user laptops, devices, is always handled securely. So the moment when we enforce these kind of policies, we can go into block mode, warn mode, or audit actions based on the data sensitivity, and that would really help in safeguarding your organization data. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the upcoming videos, we would have more demo, and we'll talk more about the DLP exploration features, and we'll proceed further. Thank you, and have a great day.